Yeah, perfect.
Oh, geez, it smells good.
Okay, I'd like to call the Temple City City Council regular meeting of May 19, 2015 to order. Madam Clerk, if we could please have roll call. Turn these on.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Fish,
Here?
Councilmember Mann,
Here.
Councilmember Sternquist,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu,
Here.
Mayor Chavez.
Here. Okay, I'd like to call Pastor Walden from the First Baptist Temple City. He's here again this evening. We're going to install you as just our regular. How's that? I think that's easier.
I think so.
Pastor Walden, of course, will be providing our invocation this evening. As many of you know, Pastor Walden is the senior pastor of the First Baptist Temple City Church. Also has an associate pastor and 9 other staff members. So you got a lot of people helping you out there, huh?
I need it.
You need it, okay. You've got 2 other churches who worship on your campus. Kachin, is that, how do you pronounce it?
Kachin,
Kachin
Burmese.
Baptist Church, who are natives from northern Burma.
Right.
Wow. They have services in Burmese, and Rock Mountain Baptist Church, which is a Chinese congregation with services in Mandarin. You do have a special event coming up on June 28th through July 2nd. You have the Vacation Bible School
Right.
for kids from 6, it'll be from, is this right, for kids? And it's going to be from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. each
Correct.
evening?
Each evening.
Okay, great. So if you have any questions, you can contact the church office or visit their website at www.templecitybaptist.org for additional information. And also, I want to pass on my congratulations to you for a very successful National Day of Prayer.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your efforts in spearheading that and organizing it. I know it was a lot of work, but it was a great event, and other than the weather, but at least it didn't rain, so.
We
But
got
maybe
our
we were
rain.
praying for rain, I don't know,
Rain's
one of the
good.
two.
Rain's
So it worked out well. So thank you very much. So if everyone will please stand and remain standing after the invocation for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, you are so good to us as a nation, as a state, as a city. We cannot thank you enough for your faithfulness in this great country that you have richly blessed. And I ask for this council, this chamber, that your wisdom would be granted, that you'd continue to protect Temple City, because you are so faithful. So thank you for being here tonight. We look forward to what you are going to do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. And I'd like to call Jim Cleft up to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Jim is, of course, many of you know, on our Public Safety and Transportation Commission. So, Jim?
Place your right hand over your heart and begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Pastor. Okay, so we will move on then to item number 5, our ceremonial presentations. We, for change of pace, don't have any this evening, so no dogs, cats, none of that stuff tonight, so we're gonna have to do without. Okay, so we'll now move on to item 6, our public comments. City Council will now hear public comments regarding items not listed on the agenda. The procedure to address the City Council is highlighted on the first page of the agenda. This section is limited to 30 minutes total, and I have a few speaker request forms. Let's see, Adam, Sue, you want to come up? Is Adam? Yeah, come on up, Adam. Yeah, right there, please.
Thank you, Mayor Chavez.
You're welcome.
Temple City Council. My announcement is just that this upcoming extension workshop that the Office of Congresswoman Judy Chu and my own office, the Office of Assemblymember Ed Chow, are working in collaboration to put on. This is going to take place on Saturday, June 6th at 10 a.m., and it's going to last for about 2 hours. It's
Where will it be held?
It's going to be held at the Arcadia Community Center at 365 Campus Drive, Arcadia 91007. And my colleague Viola has graciously printed out flyers that I'm going to be leaving here with you guys.
Great.
And and there's a RSVP email or phone number that you guys can call into and just let us know that you're coming, so we have an accurate head count.
Perfect. 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you for your
Appreciate
time.
it. Extend our good wishes to Congress Member Chu. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so next we have Karen Noyes from the library. Come on up, Karen.
Good evening, Mayor Chavez, Council.
Good afternoon.
Two things. First, I just wanted to remind the community that our summer reading program is less than 2 weeks away. It starts June 1st and goes through August 22nd. We have youth volunteering opportunities available for our summer reading program to assist the librarians and the staff with the program. Orientation is next Wednesday at 6 p.m., so if any youth, 13, 18 wants interested, they can come by and learn about the summer reading program. We're kicking off with a magician on June 6th. It's a family program, Alan Oshiro. Yes.
Let me tell you, is your mic on? I don't know, but.
Is it better now?
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go. Just bring
Okay.
it down a little bit. There you go.
Okay. Sure. Did you miss anything? Should I repeat everything?
No, we heard you. I just want to make
Okay.
sure the rest is okay.
I have
You're
library
good.
voice, so I try to keep everything down. So we're very excited. And I'm especially excited about the program because the theme is music this year, which will go wonderfully with our concerts in the park as well. So to tie those two things in together makes me really excited about the program this year. The second thing, I'm very excited to tell you about our friends of the library and I wrote a grant, or applied for a grant from the Library Foundation. And with my interest in science and the fact that Temple City Unified has a wonderful science and robotics program, we applied for a robotics program, which we got the grant. So we have a robotics program at the end of June. And we ordered books to support the curriculum for our schools, all sorts of things I've selected. Physics, programming, computer programming, engineering, robotics. We have over 30 new items, and I'll be making a special display in the library for students and families to support STEM education here in Temple City. So I just wanted the community to be aware that these are available for checkout as soon as tomorrow, if I can get the labels on.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next we have Mr. TK Washuta. Want to come on up?
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
Hi. You might recall I stood here 2 weeks ago and reminded the council that before the Rosemead beautification project was initiated and after it was completed, you removed canopies from 3 of the northbound bus stops along Rosemead Boulevard, and those have not been replaced. As we're going into the summer months, it's not uncommon to have heat into the high 90s at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, okay? Now, yesterday, excuse me, your community service director emailed me a reason why those canopies are not there, and I'm going to read part of it. The very first sentence is in error. It says the city considered installing bus shelters. That should read the city considered replacing the one it removed. Specifically, the one at Rosemead on the northeast corner of Rosemead and Longden, across from where I live, and I use it 7 days a week. It's an exposed bus bench. Last Friday, I had to walk down to Emperor, where there's a shelter, in the light rain with an umbrella. Okay, this is mindless. Here's what he says. Due to the limited sidewalk space available at these locations, it is not possible to install a bus shelter and to provide adequate clearance around the shelter to comply with ADA requirements. There was one there before you removed it. I don't understand the business logic of that. The city cannot install a bus shelter in violation of the ADA, so shelters were not and cannot be installed at these locations. You removed 3, but you didn't replace them. Okay, enough said about that. I'm not sure why there's no, the thought that was given to the new landscaping along Rosemead Boulevard in the center median and the plant islands to either side. There's no arid or drought-tolerant plants or desert landscaping. All of that requires irrigation. You've got subterranean sprinklers underneath there, and we're in the middle of a drought. And NBC Channel 4 this week said that we've been in a drought for 4 years, okay? That demonstrates a lack of forethought and planning on the city's part, installing that kind of landscaping that has to be irrigated in the midst of a profound drought. I don't understand that. Let's move on. Dishonesty at Value Mart Food Warehouse. This is the single most dishonest retailer I have ever had the displeasure of doing business with for the simple 2 reasons. Their cashiers are notorious for underscanning items, especially produce on the Wednesday produce sale for their friends and relatives. They'll scan a grapefruit, which weighs a lot, but they'll ring a 4-digit code for a poblano pepper or a chili pepper or cilantro. They're defrauding the store. That's one thing. The other thing is the overscans. Notorious for overscans, and I have sent in weights and measures 3 times to do an investigation, and they cited them and gave them a penalty. And for me doing that, the owner barred me from the store. I've been barred since September of 2013. Anyway, my time's run out. I really hope the city council would give serious thought to closing up Value Mart. I know they pay a lot of taxes to the city. Very dishonest, unsympathetic, belligerent, and rude management and dishonest employees. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we do have your points and also Mr. Forbes' response, and I'm sure he'll continue to work with you on those issues. So thank you. Okay, anyone else would like to comment? Okay, then I will go ahead and close public comments, and we'll move on to item number 7, our consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended unless removed for further discussion. If members of the city council or persons in the audience wish to discuss any matters listed on the consent calendar, please address them at this time.
Mr. Mayor, staff would like just to pull for just a comment, item G,
Item G.
but just for a comment.
Okay,
No addition, no amendment to the action.
okay, so we'll pull item G. Anyone else? All right, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item G.
Second.
Okay, any objection? So moved or so carried. So item G.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the reason I pulled this item tonight, just for discussion, and we still recommend approval of this item, is late Thursday, we received a notice, our regular billing from CJPIA, and Ms. House was just in discussion with CJPIA. There's going to be what's called a retro adjustment comp that would have usually been reflected in this, but we only got notice of it on Thursday. So in a future item, you'll see an adjustment, and it's a pretty substantial adjustment, but reflects and Ms. House had a good conversation with CJPIA today about that adjustment, but it's not reflected here. We didn't feel it was appropriate to ask you to amend the item tonight to reflect that. So you're going to see a supplementary action to this third quarter adjustment during the next meeting. So you'll see a duplication, but we still recommend that you approve what's before you tonight, but no, and we'll have an explanation as to why that retro took place and our discussions with JPIA related to that. And it will be expenses that will be incurred during this fiscal year, not going forward, but during this fiscal year.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you. Any questions? All right, we'll entertain a motion on that matter. Anybody?
Move it.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, hearing no objection, so ordered. So we will now move on to item number 8, public hearing, none. Item number 9, unfinished business, none. And we'll now move on to item 10 on the agenda, which is the new business. Item 10A, consideration of a request from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and the Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics for Temple City to co-sponsor the 2015 Special Olympics World Summer Games Law Enforcement Torch Run final leg and ceremony in Temple City Park on July 19th, 2015. So,
Mr.
We have
Mayor,
a
Brian
presentation?
Arizumi, our Public Safety Supervisor, and our Captain, Caron Jacob, is in the back as well.
Great.
Any questions you have? Go ahead, Mr. Arizumi.
okay,
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As we're all aware, Los Angeles is hosting the 2015 Summer Special Olympics Games. As part of that ceremony to commence the event, they have the annual or the torch lighting in Athens, Greece, and it comes through the state of California, and it's going to be running through various cities within the state of California. Temple City happens to be selected as one of those cities that the torch will come through as part of a third route of the final leg for the event. And so in doing so, we want to showcase Temple City's pride in supporting the Special Olympics, as well as showcasing the Special Olympic athletes and the law enforcement runners that are running with the torch. The event, as Mayor said, will be held on Sunday, July 19th, with the runners assembling at Rosemead in Las Tunas at approximately 3:15 p.m. Time is dependent on how quickly they move from other stops. On that particular day, they will have 5 cities that they'll be visiting, and so Temple City on that day is the 4th city for the run. It'll start at approximately 3:15 p.m. With assembling in Temple City Park for the ceremony at approximately 3:30. It'll be an hour-long ceremony showcasing the Special Olympic and law enforcement runners, as well as a special presentation with entertainment and some guest speakers. After the ceremony is concluded, the runners will continue east and disassemble at Baldwin and Las Tunas. The event does have some logistic needs that the city and the sheriff's department will be working together. And so tonight we are asking that the city the city council allow the city to co-sponsor the event for logistic purposes and a small funding for rental of equipment and decorations and possibly personnel. There will be a use of the pavilion, and so there will be a waiver for the use of the pavilion. And so tonight, what we're asking the city council to do is approve the request from the sheriff's department and the law enforcement torch run to co-sponsor the 2015 Special Olympics World Games Law Enforcement Torch Run in Temple City Park on July 19th, and also to waive all fees and deposits for use of Temple City Park and the pavilion.
okay, thank you. Are there any council questions?
Just a quick one.
Yes,
The runners will run from Rosemead in Las Tunas and to Temple City Park?
Correct.
So will they be running on the street?
They'll be running on the street.
So Las Tunas will be closed as well during
No,
that
there'll
time?
be what we call a rolling roadblock.
Uh-huh.
And so CHP will be assisting in the escort, and the sheriff's department will provide that roadblock. It's similar, I don't know if anybody saw the torch run that occurred this past Friday. They'll go down the street, kind of like a procession. They'll close off the intersections, let the runners go through. Once the runners pass, the street's opened up to traffic. And then they have a vehicle with its lights on behind, making sure that the runners are protected.
And the
And-
runners from the sheriff department?
No, these will be law enforcement runners from all across the state and the nation, as well as Special Olympic runners.
I see.
The only temporary road closure that would occur is between Golden West and Kaufman. That'll be closed to allow the runners to run from the street into the park, and it'll be reopened. And once they're ready to leave, there'll be a temporary closure so they could assemble and run from the park to Baldwin and Las Tunas.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Will other runners be allowed to run with them, or is just, I know sometimes when you see the torch run, other people kind of join in, or is that going to be limited? Or maybe we don't know yet, I don't know.
Well, yeah.
And Captain
Looks like
Jacob
someone's
might
coming
have
up
some
Running along the
information.
sidewalk.
Mr.
Welcome,
Mayor, I
Captain
didn't think it'd be
Crone.
appropriate to yell from the back of the room. From my understanding, in previous torch runs that we've done, although there haven't been the World Games, we've been able to have other people run along with the athletes and the runners, but I will certainly confirm that for you.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
sure the
think that'd
public
be-
would want to know, and
Correct.
they can participate, or maybe some of their council members
that's-
might want to run, or whatever. I don't know. How far is it again?
It's only half a
How
mile.
far? Half a mile.
It's about a mile.
Yeah, we can do that.
Not far.
All right,
Yeah,
that'd be
just
fine.
under a mile from Rosemead to the park here.
Very good. Okay, if there are no further council questions, I'll open up public comment. Anybody from the public wish to comment on this matter? If not, I will close public comment, and any final council comments? No? Well, I think it's a great event. I consider it an honor that they would choose Temple City to participate in, and I think, just so the public knows, you had estimated about $500 in expenses, I guess, or something like that, to do
Correct.
the
For rental of
chairs and
chairs,
stuff like that.
PA system,
Maybe
balloon
fix up the park a
decorations.
little bit. So we're going to have it at the pavilion, right?
The event will be
Yeah.
held in the
Right.
pavilion.
People can bring their chairs and sit up and things like that, so, cool. All right, anyone else? All right, well, then I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I think this is a wonderful event, and I'm so glad it's happening in Temple City. It's so exciting. So with that, it's my pleasure to make a motion to approve the request from the Sheriff's Department
Okay, you want to include the
and
waiver?
waive all fees and deposit for use
Second.
of Temple City.
Okay, we have a second. Any objection? Can we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Councilmember Fish,
Yes?
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chavez, you,
Yes.
sorry, Mayor Chavez.
Yes, thank you. Okay, look forward to it. Get those running shoes out. Be fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll move on to item B, approval of vehicle lease and maintenance program. Due to, a limited capacity for the city to effectively develop and maintain a comprehensive vehicle maintenance and replacement program, contracting with EFM for the lease of city vehicles, maintenance, and ongoing replacement will ensure the city's vehicle operations are effective and cost efficient. So we will have a presentation by Director House.
Before, Mayor Chavez, yes, Director House will give an overview of the program. Just to give you a general sense of what kind of both the operational analysis and the financial analysis, at the end of the day, this isn't a truly cost-saving measure exclusively. And in fact, there's some costs that will increase a little bit during this first year with this program. We are a contract city. We operate as a contract city, and that model has worked since the Lakewood Plan back in the 1950s, and the city of Temple City adopted that. This is really consistent with that. And also internally, there's some contract cities that have their own fleet program and have a corporate yard and other functions that allow them to maintain their vehicles in a manner that's consistent with safety practices and others. And we've been doing a good job, but a lot of staff time and other organizational resources have really been deployed to keeping up our fleet maintenance, our fleet, or for lack of a better term, our vehicles that operate and provide services to the community every single day through that program. So from staff's perspective, it wasn't just the cost factor that played into, even though that is over time, and Ms. House will explain some of the financial advantages of the program over time, but it's not an immediate financial advantage right away. So with that, Ms. House and all the work, and Michael Forbes, I have to thank, as well as Ms. Burrows and members of the staff who took a hard look at this program and made sure that the recommendation that we're bringing forward to you today on approving this, and this is a substantial change in how we operate. And so that has to be acknowledged in what we're doing, but we feel we're doing it in the most prudent manner, and we'll go through some of the details of that in Mrs. House's presentation. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This evening, we are asking the City Council to authorize the City Manager to enter into a master agreement for vehicle leasing and maintenance with Enterprise. Out of the 21 vehicles currently in the city fleet, 11 vehicles are at least 10 years old, some substantially beyond that. And the city really is lacking in a comprehensive maintenance and replacement program, which provides a lack of efficiency and inconsistencies with routine maintenance and needed repairs. Approximately half the fleet will probably be in need of costly repairs in the future. And if we were to look at vehicle replacement this year as part of our fiscal year 2015-16 budget, we would have brought forward a request to replace 4 vehicles immediately with an estimated cost of $120,000. And further, in looking at replacing older vehicles over the next 4 years, the city would be looking at an outlay of an additional $180,000. As City Manager Cook alluded to, due to our limited staff and facility resources, as we're a contract city, and we do not have an in-house maintenance program, our own facilities in which to repair vehicles, which many cities have, and because of the number of vehicles that we're recommending needing to be replaced in the immediate future, staff looked into exploring leasing vehicles and contract for maintenance with Enterprise. So if this program is approved, we are anticipating that it will stabilize the cost of vehicle operations, which will reflect a more accurate annual cost, which can be budgeted more effectively on an annual basis. The cost included in future budgets will be the maintenance of vehicles and then the lease of the vehicles, which will spread the equity over probably, we're anticipating 5 years. It'll also build in staff efficiencies, as currently our staff, our maintenance staff who drive these vehicles will, for the most part, take these vehicles in for maintenance, and that takes away from their time in addressing their regular duties.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. So are we anticipate keeping these vehicles for 5 years then? Is that?
Well, that's the initial, that's how the initial lease payment is calculated. It assumes 5 years. But each vehicle goes through an annual evaluation of maintenance and repairs, and then, you know, mileage, and we look for the sweet spot as to when to replace each vehicle.
Okay, so we could maybe turn one in after 3 years.
Sure.
No penalties for that?
No
or-
penalties at
Okay.
all. And what's nice about the program is it's an open-ended lease. It's not like a closed-in traditional lease that you or I might enter into. It's an open-ended lease, which means we actually build equity in the vehicles. It's almost like purchasing the vehicle. You're building equity as you go. And so when we did the analysis, we looked at when we go to replace vehicles in 5 years, we have actual equity in that vehicle that can be put towards the next lease purchase agreement. We anticipate some long-term savings because, again, we'll be more comprehensively maintaining the vehicles, and we will be we'll have the means through enterprise management to, again, look for that sweet spot as to when it's the most effective time to replace a vehicle. And we'll be replacing the vehicles before the end of the service life of the vehicles, which many of our current vehicles are at, and avoid costly repairs. Funding for this program will be included in the fiscal year 15-16 city budget. We touched upon this issue briefly last week at our first budget study session. Our first year's lease maintenance cost and vehicle and add-ons is anticipated to be approximately $85,000, and we are looking to, we're recommending that we utilize the vehicle replacement reserve. We anticipate ongoing operations to be approximately $52,000 in the general fund, and we'll be able to fund the tree crew from the Lighting and Landscape District, and we'll also be able to fund some of the all of the hybrid vehicles that we'll be purchasing with AQMD funds. And these costs also include, we've calculated fuel in these operations cost also, because that is the only thing per se that we will have an ongoing monthly cost for is the actual fuel costs. Go
One
ahead.
quick question. So 85,000 gets us the vehicles. I'm a little confused on the ongoing operations. That's in addition to the 85,000? Or is that?
Yeah, well, it's the first year we say that we'll fund it out of the vehicle replacement, and then after the first year, this is what we anticipate ongoing operations to be.
Yeah. And the ongoing is after the first year,
Yeah,
second, third. Okay.
exactly.
So it's not total together.
No,
Right. Right.
And again, we've calculated vehicle or gasoline usage in this also. And one of the positive things about this program is that they'll be monitoring our gasoline, and we are exempt from federal excise tax on gasoline, and they have the programs in place to account for that, and we haven't been taking advantage of that in the past.
So you mean when we go get gas, we get a rebate back or something?
Yeah, we will actually not pay for the federal excise tax because it's all done through a separate card program of purchasing gas.
Interesting.
So in many ways, it's going to add a lot of efficiencies just because, again, Enterprise has the infrastructure in which to take advantage of all these, extra advantage, and that, staff, we just currently don't have the means and the resources to do that.
Who maintains the vehicles currently? Do we just take them to a body shop, a repair shop? Or?
Yes, in local shops, and it just kind of depends. It's the relationship that, our Parks and Rec department may have with maintenance or community development department. What is nice about Enterprise is what they do is they set up contracts with local vendors here in Temple City. So the vendors that are currently maintaining our vehicles will most likely also still be able to maintain our vehicles, and Enterprise works with them to set up the contracts in which to do that. And then the Enterprise Fleet Maintenance Management will monitor all of our maintenance bills and costs and expenses to ensure that we are not overpaying for any type of services.
If I can wrap up, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Ms. House. What this does too, from an ongoing standpoint, and I said at the beginning of the item, we're not expecting to see cost savings right away, but what you want to see in any type of ongoing operational endeavor, be it replacement of vehicles, equipment, is you want to be able to plan. What this does is gives us a vehicle and the professional expertise and a mechanism to do that. So you'll see in the next budget, in the following budget, and the following budget after that, a steady prediction of what that's going to be over time. I was a little skeptical of the program at first, to be quite honest with you. And as I looked at it and looked at our specific circumstances, it seemed to make a lot of sense. I don't think with any new program, there'll probably be a few bumps in the road that we'll go through. But Enterprise, everybody knows Enterprise, and their fleet management program is used nationwide, and they have an incentive to work with us and work with us well over time. And so with that, I think it is a change in operation, but I don't think it is a risky gamble to look at it from that perspective. So we're here to answer any and all of your questions related to it, and
Okay.
go from
Are
there.
there any council questions?
No, but I have a bit of trivia about
Okay.
Enterprise. The gentleman that gave me a ride home, we were talking about just Enterprise, and he said that is what they originally, the owner started, was in fleet services. So they have a long history of doing similar things, and then they branched out into,
Right. Individual.
individual rentals. But he said that believe the man's name is Taylor, the owner. He was a naval officer on the Enterprise, and that's what he named his company after. So I thought that was a bit of.
Thank you for that bit of trivia.
Thank you, Cindy.
Appreciate that. Are there any other questions?
Yeah,
Councilmember Mann,
I do have a couple for Director House.
go ahead.
So first of all, I appreciate the staff report and taking us through the reason why we're changing the operations. And it makes sense on a conceptual level to, as a contract city, we try to contract out as many services as we can. And I noticed that, in part of your analysis, you mentioned that part of the cost that is borne on us as owners of vehicles is maintenance, like fluid changes, repairing the brakes, tires. So I had a little bit of a concern regarding the contract because the contract in the fine print explicitly states that the agreement does not cover tire repair and replacement, oil changes, and all the sort of routine maintenance that I kind of read as being part of the cost that we're trying to take care of. So I was wondering how are we covered through that?
Actually, I would have to check specifically, but in the lease agreement, it doesn't cover that. But in the separate maintenance agreement, it's my understanding that it covers oil changes and that type of thing. Tire replacement, I would have to look at separately, but we have budgeted a little extra on an annual basis to cover, things that may need to be replaced. The other thing is, again, our vehicles do drive limited mileage because we're, 4 square miles. And that's part of the reason why we're getting really some attractive lease rates is because they do look at our annual mileage. But I can follow up specifically on the tire replacement. I can tell you also that with part of their program, they do offer insurance coverage, so all of the typical things that would be covered under your insurance. But since we are insured with the JPIA, that portion is not included because we're already paying for that in our premium. So
Tire replacement usually isn't considered maintenance.
Correct.
It's just they get old and you replace them.
But the oil changes.
And the vehicle repairs and service is covered in the maintenance management and rental agreement that's part of our report.
Right.
Paragraph 2, vehicle repairs and service. So I don't know if you took a look at that.
Yeah, so in the maintenance agreement portion on the fourth that says vehicle repairs and service says this agreement does not cover and the leasee will remain responsible for and pay for oil and other fluids between changes.
Where are
tire
you
report-
reading from?
This
The maintenance.
I know, I'm looking at the maintenance agreement. What paragraph?
4?
4.
the fourth one.
Okay. Well, we must have a
Yeah,
different
well,
maintenance
Okay,
management
I'm-
agreement
I'm-
then.
I'm-
Oh, I see. Okay,
And-
we
and
have
I-
several documents. We have a maintenance management and fleet rental agreement in paragraph 2 that speaks to vehicle repairs. Then we have a separate maintenance
one-
agreement,
this is the one
2-page
I'm reading.
agreement. That's really long. It looks like it was written by a lawyer and is really in small print. And I congratulate you for reading that, Councilmember Mann. And perhaps we need to
I think Ms. House
look
has
at
some
the
answers.
inconsistencies.
Yeah, can I
maybe.
clarify that? Thank you.
Yes.
To Michael Forbes, who keeps me straight on vehicles. I've learned more about vehicles than I ever want to know or ever wanted to know. Michael just indicated that it said it's not responsible for fluids and oil stuff.
Oil
in
stuff.
between normal routine oil changes.
Right.
So if you have an oil change every 3,000 to 4,000 miles, but for some reason you need it done before that, that we bear that cost.
And it begs the question, why would you want to do that? So
Right.
they're going to take care of the regular maintenance. If we want to go above and beyond that, we're on our own, basically.
Correct.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, and I know, just to elaborate on Councilmember Mann's question, which is a very good one. One of the attractive elements of the open-end lease, and I'm going to simplify this, but it's interchangeable. So if we're not comfortable with the F-150 that comes out in 2015, and Ms. Burrows gets feedback from her staff that this is wrong or this is wrong, it's interchangeable out. And on top of that, we lose no equity. So the payment that we're making is a payment into the program, and there's equity value that we get back into the next lease that we enter into without having to pay out $40,000 or so for a fully equipped F-250, which would probably be on the low end. So just to add a little bit, that helps, Councilmember Mann.
No, that helps a lot. Thank you. And just one more question, because and I know City Manager Brian Cook had mentioned that the immediate cost savings is not going to be realized now. It's more of a long-term projection. So just approximately, how far in the future are we looking before the cost savings is realized?
You know, that's a great question. And I was thinking about that as I was actually putting the budget together. You know what? We're going to have a much better idea of where we're going to be a year from now once we've gone through one cycle of owning these vehicles. Actually, we won't get these vehicles for 3 to 4 months because they actually order them from the factories. But once we go through one full cycle and we have a very accurate and comprehensive accounting of maintenance, I think we're going to have a much better idea. Part of the issue that we've had is that since we don't have a comprehensive record, currently a comprehensive record-keeping program per vehicle, you know, it's difficult to say. I mean, I can tell you about how much we budget for vehicle maintenance in the budget now, but I can't specifically tell you because there's just no program or there's no system that, you know, vehicle that, you know, the 2012 Silverado pickup truck that we bought with AQMD funds a few years ago. I can't tell you, you know, what's the annual cost on that vehicle. So again, I'm anticipating that we will see, again, a savings into the second and third year. And again, once we go through a cycle and we get a handle on what each vehicle is costing us, then we'll have a much better idea and can, you know, report back.
And immediately to that too is that the alternative is drawing down, and we're doing it. We're doing it the first year, but a complete drawdown eventually on about the $400,000 you reserved for vehicle replacement which is assigned in your reserves right now. What we want to be able to do is build those ongoing operational costs and build them into the ongoing operational budget.
And one thing I also wanted to point out, again, we're anticipating the general fund vehicle operations to be about 52,000. And I can tell you that in last year's budget, across all the operating budgets, we budgeted approximately 42,000. So we're anticipating, or I'm just budgeting based on the numbers from Enterprise, overall about a 10% or about a $10,000 a year increase. But again, remember that we're actually making lease payments against that too. So again, it's just going to be one of those things that's going to have to cycle through for a year so we can get an idea of the cost and then be able to budget accordingly in the future. But again, it's going to give us a stable number in which to budget in operations, which now we don't have. And we don't, at any time we could be facing a costly repair on an older truck, pickup truck or something like that.
Okay, thank you. And just one last one, because you mentioned in your presentation, and also there's an inventory of our vehicles. About half of them are 10 years or older.
Uh-huh.
And I also saw that we do have some relatively newer vehicles, like the 2014 Silverado, which I'm guessing it's only a year old. So from an intuitive standpoint, it seems that scrapping or replacing newer vehicles, I mean, we have a couple from like 2011, 2012.
Right. And
Scrapping those vehicles may not, it doesn't intuitively make sense to replace that. So is there some kind of rationale behind scrapping the entire fleet instead of keeping some of the newer ones that we have?
Well, we did consider that and keeping some of the newer vehicles, but we thought it would be best to sort of start fresh with all the vehicles. And also, if you look at attachment B from the staff report, that's actually a detailed accounting of sort of our current equity in all of our vehicles, and then the current equity will be applied and phased into the monthly payment. So, for example, if I should have brought a bigger, so for example, some of the newer Priuses that we bought in 2011, the average equity from resale is we're anticipating to be $20,000. So when we factor in the new lease payment for the next 5 years, our lease payment is $52 monthly on the replacement vehicles. So we are realizing the equity that we have in our current vehicles. And really, the Silverado is the one that is the newest. It's a 2012. Yeah, I think on here it says a 2014, but it's a 2012. So we feel like we're getting the best advantage that we have. And actually, Enterprise did come out and actually appraise and go through each vehicle. And just like if you were to go in and want to do a trade, and they did a really comprehensive. It wasn't like they just looked at a sheet and said, "Oh, you've got a 19 or 2005 Ford Chevy truck. We're going to give you $4,000." They actually came and looked at the vehicles. They looked at the mileage, and really were very, I think, comprehensive and fair on our program. And they have motivation to be fair because they want the business and they want they want reputable programs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a number of questions.
Okay.
First of all, let me see if I hear it correctly. When you estimate our cars and the value of our equity built in our cars, especially on newer cars, and you said that the value is reapplied as a part of our payment?
Right. So whatever the value is, sort of, for lack of a better word, a trade-in value of our vehicle, that's considered like the down payment. So then the remaining equity is the amount that is amortized over 5 years for the lease. But again, it's they don't amortize the rest of the equity of the 5 years. They anticipate that you're going to sell it in 5 years, and and have some equity in it. So we're really only amortizing over 5 years the cost of the use of the vehicle for 5 years.
Okay, so since I haven't seen the math of the amortization, let's say here I'm reading on your attachment B, you're saying that when I see monthly lease payment, including tax, $369.93, and full maintenance program, $26.22. So for that vehicle, it's a 2016 Nissan Frontier, for example. So we'll be paying somewhere along the lines of $390. And that is after we already pay into trade in all our cars?
That's a trade-in. And then if you look at So I don't know, which vehicle are you looking at?
I'm at the first vehicle on the
Oh,
new
the first
fleet.
one, okay. And then see the estimated value at the term of the lease?
Uh-huh.
So basically, when we're done in 5 years, that vehicle is going to be estimated at a value of $786. So, and that's essentially, that's locked in. And then at the time that we are done with the lease, then we will go, Enterprise will assist us, and they will sell that vehicle. And if the vehicle pulls more than the 11,786 that they estimated,
Uh-huh.
we'll get that additional equity to put down towards the next vehicle.
Okay, but what I meant is the vehicles that we currently own, that value is folded in here somewhere.
Yes,
And is that the 1350 number that we're looking at, average equity from resale?
yes. So what we're saying is we're going to replace a 2005 Honda Accord with a 2016 Nissan. And yes, that's how much they're anticipating is the value of that Honda.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yeah.
so they looked at our entire fleet, and what this does is break down, just not necessarily per car, but the number that's of greatest importance here is $158,000. That's the total equity position of our vehicles as of today, as Enterprise assessed them to be.
Right.
So that's how that cost is spread throughout the entire fleet. Not necessarily car per car.
Right,
per
right.
se.
Yeah, because if it's car per car, it seems kind of weird
You-
because
you're
the
absolutely right, sir.
2014 has no value when it
Yeah.
comes to 2015 Ford F-150.
You're absolutely right, sir. And the number that's of the most importance here is that bottom number, the value. So if you're asking, what are we getting for our fleet? It's $158,000.
Okay, all right.
Does that help you, sir?
To some degree, You know, you mentioned that you were skeptical, and I'm also skeptical when I look at this, especially when we did this without an informal RFP out there. You guys mentioned that because city ordinance does allow us to piggyback on somebody else's RFP, but honestly, I really don't know anything this West Contra Costa County Unified School District RFP, I don't know how that applies to us. And not that I'm doubting the assessment from staff, but I really think that when we go into a deal like this long-term for 5 years, I really need to, and for me anyway, I really need to see some kind of a math that shows the cost benefit. When Councilmember Min asked, when do we see the savings? And the answer came back as, well, we need to try for a year or two. Well, to me, that's not good enough for me to think that this is a good deal. Because we should go in with some kind of mathematics, with some kind of modeling to show that that this is a good deal before we enter into it. I don't want to enter a deal and then 2 years later we found that this is not a good deal. Because, for example, it says here 60 months term, 5,000 annual mileage. I thought we drive more than that, than 5,000 miles per year. I thought I heard the number 9,000, something like that yearly. So I don't know if there are any catches in here. So I just want to see a little bit fuller assessment as to why, number one, we don't need to go out for an RFP. Perhaps there are terms out there that make it a little better. I don't know if Enterprise is the only game in town.
Can I intervene? 2 years ago, the Mosquito and Vector Control District
Right.
did the same thing, same amount of vehicles, and we've been, I guess, it's been 2 years now, and they, if you feel comfortable, I would call the director there, and he could give you an actual cost savings number, but it was pretty significant. And I recall at the time the same questions by 21 governing board members from different cities, all asking. We had a 3.5-hour presentation and discussion, asking similar questions. And the bottom line was Enterprise was the only one that answered to an RFP because there wasn't a lot of companies that did it. And I guess there was one other one that couldn't even compete and didn't seem very knowledgeable. They were up and coming out of Orange County. But I would call Ken at Mosquito and Vector Control if you have any concerns. He would be able to, tell you firsthand and answer all your questions because we all did the same there. So I think we should, I feel very comfortable with Enterprise. The presentation was great. I know we've seen it in our budget in January, just reviewing it, and all 21 governing board members were very appreciative that we had gone to the lease program. So similar fleet, was it similar?
Okay.
So.
Point's well taken, but we're right now on the question point of it. So why don't we go ahead, Vince, are you done with your questions? Or you still have a few
Yeah,
more?
because I'm seeing here, just one last comment, I'm seeing that the cost actually increased by $10,000 a year. And then we're told there will be savings in long term, and I kind of the same, maybe, similar to, we kind of need to see some math or something to back it up that indeed there was, we have exercised our due diligence to make sure. I mean, I'm not doubting that this was a good program, and I'd never had the benefit of seeing that presentation from Enterprise, so didn't have that benefit of seeing that. So, I mean, it seemed to make some sense. But however, oil change and stuff like that, we still need to, I imagine staff will still need to take the car for oil change. They don't come and pick up the car, do they?
They can for an extra cost. I don't propose that right now.
So the savings
But-
of staff time is perhaps limited in the maybe larger things, but the fluid, tires, looks like staff still need to take the car to wherever been servicing us. So the only big savings I see is the unanticipated car breakdown, engine blew out, whatever, and also perhaps in the replacement cost of the vehicles when they get older. So.
And there's no need to. There's no absolute urgency in approving this tonight. If we can go back, and I will go back to Vector Control. You don't need to call Mayor Pro Tem. I can go back to Vector Control, see what kind of reports that they have, talk to them, and in a subsequent meeting, as an addendum to the report, kind of report back as to some of the pros and cons that they saw in the program itself, as they've been, and Councilmember Sternquist has been on the board, some of the issues that they've been seeing, so that you can hear from a very local agency as to some of their experiences as well with the program.
Do we currently have some of our staff who try and fix the cars? I know that was a problem we had at the Vector Control, that staff was sometimes.
Yes,
Fixing
that
should not
we
be
have to be
doing
careful about that because we do have a labor contract with our employees that speak to certain issues. Apparently, that has been discussed in the past, but not to go into too much great detail about that. We have to be cognizant of that issue, though, council members. So,
questions.
Go ahead.
As far
Now's the
as,
time.
okay, as far as staff time, does each department take their cars to be serviced? Is that how it
Yes.
works?
Yes.
And do we have any kind of a maybe annual cost for the repairs and the maintenance of those cars?
We don't.
We don't?
Because we don't track it by vehicle, unfortunately. And that's one of the things is that, there is not a system in place. There hasn't been a system in place. That's one of the attractive things about Enterprise is it's all automated and they track everything, and they also track your maintenance and repairs and determine when that sweet spot is to no longer own the vehicle. And again, it's not necessarily for 5 years at any time. We can decide to, purchase the vehicles and not be part of Enterprise anymore. It's not necessarily a 5-year commitment.
and on top of that, in one of we'll talk, and when it sounds like we're probably gonna,
Yeah.
sorry, sounds like we're probably gonna bring back this item with some additional information. But one of the other benefits is the open-end lease concept allows us to, again, build the equity, but pull out when we need to. So even though it's a 5-year commitment to play in, and on top of that, from a pricing structure, if we went out to purchase 22 vehicles right now, the pricing that Enterprise can get for those vehicles, we're taking advantage of that pricing right now with a massive
Volume.
The only
Volume
other
discount.
agency that I can think of that could price at that level is the County of Los Angeles locally. Maybe the City of Los Angeles also can make those kind of pricings, but I even doubt that they get a pricing structure as advantageous as Enterprise does.
Okay. You know, I listening to all of you, and this actually sounds like a great deal, but I'm a little skeptic just because we're not having an RFP. I would like to have something to compare it to. I'd love to hear from the Victor before we make any kind of decision. That's where I am.
May I add to that?
Absolutely.
Councilmember Fish, perhaps I'm sure you've done the analysis, and that's why we didn't have the benefit of that. Maybe you can show us, the analysis that the other people have done, and saying that, well, they've done the comparison, much like the vector control. The school district done the
Right.
comparison, and this far exceeds
To see
any-
the detail of
any-
their
yeah,
bid
so-
process. Absolutely.
And also want to also add, if we were going to bring it back, show the number of average miles that we drive it, because 5,000 miles divided by 300 days, say, that's only equals 16 miles per day. That seems awfully low for the city vehicle, especially co-enforcement that drives around a lot. So just want to see that analysis.
And if I may, to answer or briefly, Councilmember Fish's question, we do not have a purchasing function here at the city that is a comprehensive purchasing function. But what this is not an unusual way to look at purchasing. There are things like called piggyback contracting and other things. There is something on the statewide level called CMAS, and that CMAS contracting is what it is that bigger agencies have gone through an RFP and RFQ process. So lawyers have looked at the contract language, experts in the field of fleet, whatever it may be. You don't, like, for example, you don't see these kind of piggyback contracts for professional services, be it engineering, lawyers, or anything, but you do see it for things like tree trimming, other things, and including this as well. And I'm not, and I'll have to answer, we'll have to get back on that question. I'm not sure if Enterprise is on what's called the CMAS. It's the statewide system that vets and does those RFQs through there. We'll have that as some additional information for the council to consider so that you have a more complete comfort level in going through and potentially approving this agreement.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Can I just share, along with the CMAS, that's actually how we purchased the seats for the council chambers without going through an RFP because it was a substantial cost. So we actually, our Transtech used that CMAS to get the chairs in, and it was actually a large cost savings doing that, and that's similar.
And I'm not really asking for it to necessarily, go out to bid, but I would like to get some information from this school district and how they, how exactly what they did and if they were, it says that they were happy, but were there other things we should be considering? Go ahead.
Council Member Fish, the school district, the reason why I have a little bit, not as comfortable with the school district because it's not local. Had it been the vector control RFP, I'll be much more comfortable because local is right here, it's recent, and number of cars are similar, then there's a certain comfort level there, so.
All right, and are there any other questions for staff? Because that's where we're at right now. I appreciate all the comments, but we're not to that point yet. So are there any questions for staff at this point? If not, then I will open up public comment. Anybody from the public wish to comment? Jerry?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Jerry Jambazian, 9136 Las Tunas. I looked in the schedule of vehicles, and the one vehicle that kind of stood out to me, or maybe I missed it, but the cherry picker. Is that a part of the lease? Because I remember not more than 10 minutes ago, City Manager Cook saying the entire fleet. So I'm wondering, is that a part of it?
It is not. I believe there's 2 vehicles that were in the tree trimming area that we are not going to lease. One's the cherry picker, and the other one is the chipper truck.
Sorry for my, the nomenclature I used when I meant our entire fleet meant our passenger level vehicles, not, the other stuff is more considered like equipment level vehicles. So sorry about that.
Was the thought, Director House, that those vehicles would be better suited to us rather than leasing, or?
Yeah, because they're more unusual than, than like a Ford pickup or a pickup truck for maintenance and, a hybrid vehicle for, staff around the city. So yeah, they're expensive, and they're so unusual, or what's the lack of a better word, specific.
Yeah.
That we chose not to, and we're not, and those vehicles are not, or those, it's more like a piece of equipment, for lack of a better word, because obviously it does more than just drive around.
Yeah.
Like the chipper truck, grinds up. Like I said, I've learned more about vehicles in the last couple months.
Yeah.
And the cherry picker, obviously. So they're so specific that it just isn't reasonable to even try to lease those vehicles.
Okay. Yeah, because when I was looking at the lease, I'm thinking, I'm looking for something like $2,000 a month, and
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
So, just for the one vehicle.
Right.
So thanks for the information.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jerry. Are there any other comments from the public at this time? If not, I will close public comments, and now we are ready for council comments. If anybody would like to make any final comments on this matter? We're all commented out? Okay, go ahead.
I might suggest that since we probably will get some more information on this, to have the enterprise people come out and let them give a presentation firsthand. I'm sure they'd be happy to do so. If you'd like.
Well, if you feel that staff feels they can add anything to what we don't already know, perhaps that would be a good idea.
Okay.
That's up to you if you feel it would help. I remember, I think it's maybe 2-3 years ago, and I think it was you and I, we were at a SCAG conference, and they were there, and we were talking about that, and then we had them actually come to a meeting and talk about that. I think this is before you were here, Tracy. It's been a while, so this is not a new thing, obviously. It appears that, based on the comments I've heard tonight, that council would prefer to get some more information, some more background, get a more perhaps better comfort level for what we're doing up here. And I don't disagree with that. And so if I'm reading everybody correctly, perhaps someone can make a motion, and then we will go ahead and bring this back another time. Would anybody like to do that?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we continue this item to a future meeting where the city manager and Director House will bring back more information to answer some of the questions and concerns tonight.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any objection? If not, we could have roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Fish?
Yes?
Councilmember Mann?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu?
Yes?
Mayor Chavez?
Yes, thank you. Okay. We are ready to move on to item 11, communications. First item is update on Governor's Conservation Order. Who's going to be given that?
I can kick that over, Mr. Mayor, to.
You're going to kick it over?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to give the presentation on.
It's up to you.
I'll kick it over to my
you know,
comments.
Okay, good. And then I believe we already had the scam awareness workshop presentation earlier?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're done with that. Okay, so we're now up to 12, update from city manager. Okay, there you go.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and if Mayor Chavez wants to chime in at any time, please do. Today this morning, we met for about an hour and a half with the 4 major water purveyors here in the city, per the direction of the council 2 meetings ago, asking for more information related to the efforts that all of the 4 major water purveyors within the city of Temple City are doing related to the governor's executive order and the Water Resources Board's most recent actions. To summarize, and we'll be putting this together in the next day or two so the public can see this, we'll put this on the website, but across the board between Sunny Slope, Golden State, American Water, and East Pasadena Water Company, and if you can, and we'll have a map up to where each area is served. Each of these companies are being required, on average, their reduction goal is between 24 to 28%. 24 for East Pasadena, 28 for American Water, 24 for Sunny Slope, and 24 for Golden State. Generally, what is happening right now between all the water purveyors is they are going through, there's about 4 different stages that they've created in terms of actions that they will be taking with their water customers. Most are doing the first stage right now, which is mandatory staged water rationing. Such things include only watering 2 days a week, looking for leaks and doing those other things. One of the questions we asked today of all the water purveyors was, what kind of water leak analysis are you doing? And they're doing, and I come from an agency that had its own water utility. We went through the same exercise as well. We would just literally look at people's consumption bills, and if there were anomalies, we would flag them, tell that individual customer, and if necessary, come out and do kind of a walking inspection of their property if they allowed us to get a sense of maybe leaky pipe, leaky toilet, those kind of things that create a lot of extra water usage. The rougher elements of this is that the monitoring of the goals, the reduction goals of 24% for most, 28% for one, is going to be monitored on a monthly basis. And if they go back to the Water Resources Board and the Water Resources Board feels as though they're not meeting those goals, then they will go to other stages. Some of those other stages include what some may want to call financial incentives to not use water. In that case, it would mean a surcharge that the individual water companies would be providing. Sunny Slope is already kind of doing that right now. Most of the shareholders and of the 4 water companies, 3 are private utilities, so they are governed under the Public Utilities Commission. So how they operate, what they charge, and the manner in which they charge is governed by the California Public Utilities Commission, and they have to go through that process. Sunny Slope is a little bit of a different animal in the sense that it is a shareholder-owned utility. So it is exempt from any processes within the CUP, within the PUC, California Public Utilities Commission, and it is exempt from the normal processes that a municipal utility would have. For example, in my prior city, we would have to go through a 218 proceeding, which I won't go into the minutia of that, but it was a way for the public to essentially protest if they felt they needed to any rate increases or question that. Sunny Slope is a little bit of a different animal, so some of our constituents who are serviced by Sunny Slope may be a little bit confused, but you're actually a shareholder in that process, and there's different ways that they have to go about dealing with their water purveyor. So they've actually had a 60% increase from, it was May 1st till October 1st, I believe. Was that correct, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And then after October 1st, they will go back to the original rate. So they're trying to build in a rate structure that forces people to not use as much water through a price point mechanism. there is questions related to the enforcement of this, because if these water agencies do not meet their targeted goals, the state can fine each of these water agencies up to $10,000 a day for not meeting these goals during this period. And they have the mechanisms to do some level of additional enforcement, which can include ways to restrict water flow into the individual's home and do some other enforced mandatory conservation measures. It's unprecedented times for us. The only drought conditions that at least some of the table could remember was the late 80s, but not to this level. So this is kind of the first stage. We will have another meeting with them in July to talk about how far they are with those goals, and are they going to a second, third, and heaven forbid a fourth stage. Hopefully not. Hopefully the first stage will allow them to meet the mandated goals that they're looking for. We've told them that, we're partners in this process, but to let us know if they feel as though there are some people who are abusing to a certain extent, but we're not going to be, at this point, council hasn't had the direction, so we haven't had the direction from council, nor have we had the discussion, but when the utility's not under our direct control, it makes it incredibly tough to enforce something that they're directly delivering to our residents. So I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to add, Mr. Mayor.
Well, it was a good summary. It was a good meeting. I thought it was very productive. It was good to get all the water companies, other than the small one that we have over on the west side of town. Doesn't serve very many customers, mostly commercial, but the four main ones were there. They were very forthcoming with their information. It wasn't all good, of course. We've all been reading the news of what's going on. My takeaways is right now they're going to focus on outdoor use. Hopefully, we can meet those mandates by cutting the outdoor use. And they're, at this point, most of them will be urging people to water only twice a day. Twice a week, twice a day, yeah, twice a day, yeah, twice a week. Sorry about that, thank you. And see if that works, and then go from there. As city manager indicated, if they do have to go to further stages, they're going to hit the pocketbook. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the gas issue. As it gets more expensive, that people use less, and I think that's their mindset. If it gets more expensive, people are going to use less water. So hopefully we won't get to that point. The nice thing is that we're going to continue that dialogue with them. It was interesting, one of the comments, I think it was by the representative, I think it was by Brian, I believe, from Cal American, that really their take on it is that the state wants everybody's lawn just to be brown. That's it. They don't want anybody to have green lawns anymore. But, hopefully we can find other ways of taking care of those issues. What else? So some of you, I know I got my statement from Golden State, talks about the different things that they're going to be doing and the charges and the stages and how much it's going to cost. I believe Cal American sent theirs out as well. I'm not too sure about Sunny Slope or East Pasadena Water Company, but did you get those as well? So they're doing a good job, I think, of educating or trying to educate people. Let's see, what else? One of the things that we also discussed was, what can we do as a city? What do they want us to do? How can we partner with them? And, issues like new developments, as the city manager mentioned, enforcement issues, those are things that still need to be done. And I think one of the main things that I remembered most is that, our part is to help educate the public and how is the community going to look with less water? What can we do to not make the changes that drastic, but to face the reality that we are going to have to use less water, and unfortunately, it's going to cost more. And so, you know, the better thing, the more that we can do to try to look at those issues earlier than later, I think will help. And so it was a good start. I was impressed. I took 5 pages of notes, and I learned more about water today than I could have learned in the last 10 years probably. So, you know, it's the one question I didn't ask that I wanted to ask was, why do we have 5 companies in our city? I didn't ask that question. I don't know that they would have answered it maybe, or could have answered it,
They
but
know.
they may not even know. But there is a map, and do we have that up on the website yet, or are we going to plan on doing that?
Or do we?
Where is my map? We have a map,
Mr.
which is
Forbes?
actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
And I think it was in one of our Connect magazines.
Yes.
Where you can actually see the different water districts that we have. And like I said, all of them were there except for this little small one, San Gabriel County Water, over in the corner. But it is broken up into different categories, and it's helpful to know where everything is. So, yes.
I have a question. If you recall, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, probably longer, but we were on council, Tom, and we were having discussions about ensuring that any new development had green space. And we talked about encouraging green space. We're still obviously requiring a certain ratio, and now we're looking at not having so much green space. So how are we addressing that?
Well, it's a new day, and that's a great question, and I know Director Forbes was asked about that today, and those are things perhaps that we're going to be looking at. Go ahead.
Yes, we do have, there are open space requirements and landscaping requirements, especially for multifamily residential, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be grass with sprinklers. It could be, and we encourage, you know, drought tolerant or native landscaping or other options like that that don't require a lot of water. And then one of the things that we were discussing this morning also is our low impact development ordinance, which requires that in addition to open space landscaping, the low impact development ordinance looks at the permeable surface area and requires, and that applies to all development, including single family residential, and requires that a certain percentage of the lot be either unpaved or have permeable pavement or be otherwise set up so that the water can go back into the ground and recharge the groundwater, which is where all 5 of our water companies get their water from, is the groundwater primarily. So that ordinance looks at the other side of the water equation, which is how do we get the water back into the ground. But certainly we've been getting a lot of inquiries lately, and the water companies said that they have too about different alternatives to landscaping other than grass, and what does the city allow and not allow and all of that. So we're in the process of looking at all that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Also, East Pasadena Water Company is going to be hosting a customer fair at Temple City High School. They tentative date of August 8th, so we'll get more information on that. One of the interesting things that I'd like to pass on to everyone also is that each of these water companies at their office has information. You can go in, you can pick up conservation kits. They have things that you can actually go in and get. And so if anybody's interested, feel free to do that. One of the questions that came up, because obviously the concern is going to be how much water are you using, how much is it going to cost, and we all want to know, well, where are we? Well, if you're Golden State, we get our bill every 2 months. Some get it every month. So you could go a whole 2 months and not know that you're using too much money. So one of the issues came up is sort of like with the smart meters. Can we check? Can we go online? Can we check to see what we're doing, how we're doing? And I believe I think Sunny Slope has that technology, or at least 50% of their customers already have that technology. And the others have indicated that they are going to start moving in that direction, which would be a big help, because that way you can kind of self-monitor and see how you're doing as well. And so hopefully those are all things that will help us to monitor what we're doing. Okay? Yes?
Did they address, because they mentioned the 24 to 28% reduction. Did they indicate where that starting point is going to be measured for the reduction?
It's going to be based, I believe, on on the 2014, 2013 levels. Yeah, 2013 monthly usage levels.
2013.
Yeah, 2013 levels. That's going to be based on.
Because I think there's some concern if you've already been conserving water for
Right.
a while, then you're kind of penalized because then that's your starting point, so to speak, to reduce.
Yeah, well, it's going, like I said, it's going to go back to 2013, so that's what you're going to compare it to. One of the companies is that East Pasadena is already meeting, one of the companies, I forget, was it East Pasadena or what, is
It was-
already meeting their levels.
Right,
Their
but
reduction.
but they're still trying.
But they're still
to
trying to reduce.
implement
Yeah.
and reach that target goal in addition to that.
Right. So, you know, it's probably not going to go away anytime soon, so it's a good thing to get a head start on. And when we get to later in our program tonight, there's a couple of things that I would like to implement, and we'll go from there. Okay? Anything else?
Nothing else, Mr. Mayor.
Well,
Thank
okay.
you.
Mr. Mayor,
Great.
may I ask a
Yeah, of
question
course.
regarding, because, I mean, based on what you said, that the water companies essentially wanted brown lawns and if we.
No, not the water companies, the
Yeah,
state.
The state, no,
Yeah,
the state. So-
they, basically, the attitude is, you know, we don't want any, you shouldn't have any green lawns at this
Right.
point.
But following that logic then, and I think we touched on it last time when we talked about water conservation, was that we were going to look at if the city is going, because on the city ordinance, it's on the books, it's like, you shall maintain your lawn and that's kind of thing. Do we have a conclusive answer as to we're not going to be citing people about brown lawns?
Good question, because that did come up as well, and, go ahead. Senator.
And if Mr. Forbes can come up one more time. We are cognizant of the environment that we're in. So that being said, we still want people to maintain, but if, you know, someone is cutting their grass well and it's brown we're not going to cite them, honestly, but I'll let Mr. Forbes, who implements our code enforcement program, speak to that a little bit more detail.
The approach that we've been taking, because all of the water companies are still allowing, and under the state mandates, you can still water twice a week, as the mayor indicated. So the approach we've been taking is watering twice a week does not mean you have to turn off the water entirely. So we're seeing a lot of lawns that are starting to get a little brown, or they have some brown spots where it's obvious that they're still trying, and maybe with twice a week that's all they can get. So those we're not enforcing on. But if it's obvious that they've just turned the water off completely and are letting everything die, then those we will go talk to the homeowner. And what we're trying to do, at least initially, is take the approach of, rather than, you know, citing them or issuing them a warning or whatever the case may be, it's more of a conversation of, it's obvious that you're trying to conserve water and thank you for doing that, but here are some other approaches that maybe you'd like to take. Have you looked into these programs about turf replacement, drought-tolerant landscaping, native landscaping, and all of that, rather than taking the initial enforcement approach? And I think it's going to be a fluid situation, as will, you know, depending on how much worse things get. But right now the approach we're taking is reduced watering is okay, but if you're going to shut the water off entirely and just let everything die, then we're going to have a conversation with you. And the state, there was already a law passed at the state level recently that didn't apply to cities, but it applied to homeowners associations, which doesn't apply in Temple City, but in a lot of other parts of the state it does, that said that HOAs cannot fine residents for having dead vegetation if they've turned off their water to conserve water. And there's another bill going through right now that would apply to cities and say that cities cannot fine homeowners for having dead vegetation. So if that law, I'm not sure, maybe Eric knows where that is in the process, but if that law ends up passing, then that would put us, you know, that would be a whole different, you know, situation for us to be in.
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
I was just going to add that the bill that Mr. Forbes was referring to is AB1. It was introduced by Brown on May 7th, 2015. It would do just what the director indicated, which would prohibit us from enforcing any local ordinance and citing people for ordinances. But I don't have, just recently introduced, so I have no idea if it's been sent to a committee or it's going to work through its regular processes, but we can report back to you on that in 2 weeks.
And, you know, the attitude of the water companies is consistent with that, and that is, they would not rather see people fined necessarily, but look at other alternatives and ways of doing things, rather than us just walking around giving out fines because you have a brown lawn, so. And I don't think we're taking that attitude either, so. Okay, all right, so we will now move on to item 13, update from City Attorney. Mr. City Attorney, do you have anything this evening?
Just one very brief comment. I will not be at your next city council meeting because I will be on vacation. However, my very capable and able and affable partner, Greg Murphy, will be here, and you'll be in good hands.
Does he know that already?
He does know that, and I will have him prepped, and
So let's make that a big,
he's always
heavy
very good.
agenda, Mr. City Manager.
They load it up, because when I get back, you know, I'm still going to be in vacation mode, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So we will thank you very much and have a good vacation. And we will now move on to item 14, council reports regarding ad hoc or standing committee meetings. Would anybody like to begin with that? Councilmember Mann, I know you've attended a couple, so go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Just an update on our City Code Review Standing Committee. Both Mayor Chavez and I and staff sat down to discuss one of the issues that I think residents have brought up repeatedly within the last year, and that has to do with our city ordinance that prohibits back-in parking in city lots. So right now, I believe staff is working on changing that ordinance so that we're
To repeal.
to repeal it, so that we're no longer prohibiting back-in parking in city lots.
Yeah. And of course, this is based on the recommendation of our Transportation and Public Safety Commission, who vetted it out and looked at it, and we agreed with their findings. And so that'll be coming back to council for consideration probably next month sometime, I would imagine. I don't know, is there a calendar? Okay, anything else?
That's all.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I want to report on the Las Tunas Downtown Revitalization Standing Committee meeting. That the mayor, myself, Mr. City Manager, Director Forbes, and our city engineer, we met and discussed in Las Tunas and some new directions. And that was actually mentioned in our budgeting session last time. So in essence, we'll be bringing back this item maybe in the next couple meetings. So for the whole council to consider.
We may even have a special meeting on that, I believe. Yeah. Okay. That's it? Thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay, just a couple of quick ones. The Councilmember Sternquist and I began our interviews regarding the commission applications for the upcoming year. We conducted interviews yesterday, and we will go with a second round of interviews next Tuesday. And as you know, on our calendar, we have the final interviews before the full council set for June 3rd. So we'll be taking care of that. We also had today an ad hoc meeting with regarding the review of rules and protocols. Councilmember Mann and I met with our city manager and city attorney to kind of take a look. Those of you who maybe recall a number of years ago, we enacted a set of protocols that basically took us a little above and beyond the next step to traditional rules of ethics that both our council members and our commissioners need to follow. So I thought it would be time, if you remember when I set this up, to take another look at it to see if it's still relevant today, if we should make any changes or any other recommendations. And we discussed it. We decided that we're going to recommend a couple of small changes for discussion and implementation at a next council or future council meeting. So we'll be getting those today. And I think it's always good to highlight and remember and bring that out to the public that they are there. We still have those protocols, and maybe it's a good thing we don't hear about them too much, because that means we're following them for the most part. So, if we're not, then of course we would be hearing about issues. But it's always good to remind us of what what we are do from an ethical standpoint, or what we need to do. So we'll have more on that. And I think that's it. Now, before we leave this, however, and I think this is the opportune time, based on what you heard this evening regarding the water issues and things that conservation and rationing, all these things that are in the news today, I thought, and it's kind of consistent with what we've been doing here on the council for a number of years, and that is to be a little more proactive and looking at these things. And as you can see, just setting up these meetings with the different water companies, or, we're reaching out, trying to see what we can do to help our residents. And so I thought this would be a good time to form an ad hoc committee, to look further into this, to work with staff, with the water companies, and then, of course, as our ad hoc committees do, report back to the full council for any necessary action that we may want to consider in the future. And so I don't want to take full credit for this, because I was approached by one of our commissioners, Serge Haddad, who is on our planning commission now and who has a special expertise in this area. I don't want to get this wrong. You work for the DWP, correct? Okay. And so we felt that his expertise would be a good asset to a committee such as this. And so I asked him if he would consider being part of this committee. As you remember, we have done this in the past, specifically with the audit committee, where we had Commissioner Curran, who had some expertise in that area, serve on that ad hoc committee with the council members. And so I thought it was a great idea. I know Serge was a little helpful today in forming some of the questions that we had for the companies as well when we met. So what I would like to do is set up an ad hoc committee this evening. We can do it one of two ways. I will be on that committee, and I would like to appoint Serge Haddad as part of that committee. And I would ask if anyone here on this council is interested in being on that committee. I know we're all kind of stretched thin, but I don't know, Mr. City Attorney, do we need 2 council members on an ad hoc committee? Or can we just leave it one planning commissioner and one councilman, or how do we do that? I should have asked you before the meeting, but.
An ad hoc committee is only 2 council members.
Okay, but we can.
If you create some other mix of council members and other commissioners, it's likely a standing committee.
Well, but was it well, then you're right. Was that a standing committee? Okay. All right, well, then I stand correct. Well, we'll see. Well, and so, but you didn't answer my question. Can I have a planning commissioner and a council member?
No,
or it has to be, we can't mix those 2?
It's not an ad hoc committee of the council unless it's 2 council
Okay,
members.
all right. Okay, so we need a council member. Anybody? William, you
I'll
want?
volunteer. Sure.
All right, you okay? All right, so I will then appoint Councilmember Fish, and we will create then a standing committee so that we can also have Commissioner Haddad as part of that, okay? And the purpose, at least the initial purpose of that standing committee, will be to address the issues, the ongoing issues of water conservation, rationing, any other issues regarding state mandates and so forth. Is that okay enough for right now until we actually meet and sort out exactly what we're going to be doing? Okay? All right. So congratulations. Stand up, sir, so everybody can see who you are. You don't want to stand up? All right. All right. Good job. All right. Well, thank you. We look forward to working with you. And, it's going to, based on what I heard today, it's going to be an interesting job. So thank you for volunteering. Thank you, Councilmember Fish, for volunteering as well. Okay. With that, we will now move on then to item number 15, council items separate from the city manager's regular agenda. Councilmember Fish.
Okay, I've been very busy in the last 2 weeks. First of all, I had the privilege of attending 2 conferences. The first one was the Southern California Association of Governments. I attended some sessions on the economy, infrastructure, and transportation. Then, just this past weekend, I attended the California Contract Cities Association, where, again, their sessions that I attended were city emergencies, cybersecurity, and then also our ethics training. Basically, all of us here up at the dais did the ethics training. And just for some people that don't know, every appointed and elected official must attend these ethics training courses every 2 years. I've been doing it as a commissioner, so this was like the 6th time I've taken the class. But I will tell you, it's different every single time. Different speaker, different examples, very helpful. There's a question and answer period. So, like I said, that we are very up to date on our ethics training. And I did attend the Miss Temple City Ambassador Program, where we have a new Miss Temple City, Anita Velasquez. And just a little shout out, Anita and 2 of our princesses, Kaylin Gann and Selena Chin, were all on my royal court in 2005 when I was the general chairman of the Khmer Festival. So I'd like to take a little bit of credit for that. It's very exciting. We had 8 incredible women try out. I don't know if people here have ever been to a Miss Temple City Ambassador Program, but it's very, very intense. It is not a beauty pageant. These girls train for months. They do an excellent job. I wish they could all get it, but like I said, they picked 5 to represent the city, so that was wonderful. And then the last thing is, with all of our water conservation, I'd like to thank the residents that are already conserving water. I know for me, for my friends and my neighbors, it's always a topic. I have lots of brown lawns in my neighborhood already. I have a lot of my friends who have dirty cars. I mean, there are a lot of residents that are already conserving, so I think we have to maybe thank them instead of just constantly saying about all these rules and all these regulations. We do have a lot of residents that are already conserving, so I'd like to thank them. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Mann?
I also like to concur with Councilmember Fish about the Miss Temple City pageant. It was a wonderful event and lots of very talented young ladies who were there. So I applaud all the effort that goes into preparing that fantastic event. And just to touch upon also the California contract cities, which we were all part of this past weekend. One thing that I just want to bring to everyone's attention is recently we've had a lot of conversation about the state gas tax, which is a source of funding that a lot of cities, not just ourselves, but a lot of local municipalities have depended on for transportation maintenance needs, such as our roads and other infrastructure costs. And so recently I learned about Senate Bill 16, which I'm not sure if staff had a chance to review, but I thought it was interesting because that measure is intended to fill in part of the void that's coming from a shortfall in the state gas tax. And there are many reasons for the shortfall. I mean, one of them is, we have more fuel efficient vehicles. Some people are driving less, and the cost of gasoline is constantly fluctuating. So that source of revenue is becoming more and more unstable. So SB 16, I think, is seeking to fill in that void. However, I'll be honest, I haven't gone through the entire text of SB 16, so I don't know whether or not it's a good bill or whether or not it really does serve to help us as a city in the long term, and whether it's a sustainable fiscal solution for us as a municipality. But I just thought it was interesting that that's out there and it's being considered at a state level. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes, I attended this GAG conference, and transportation and drought hot topics every place we go. The Contract Cities Conference was interesting and informative. The one on economic development was especially interesting to me, and many of the problems that were identified had to deal with gas emissions, aging infrastructure, insufficient transportation, and of course the drought due to climate change. No real answers, but just a lot of problems that need to be solved. The You've Been Hacked session, which was on cybersecurity, was also very interesting, and one of the things that I found something or that I didn't know, because we had such a great presentation by our neighborhood watch program where the gentleman came out and spoke a 45-minute presentation on cybersecurity, but that petroleum companies and transportation industries are the two industries that are hacked the most often, for whatever reason. So I found that of interest. The ethics course was also very interesting. I found it kind of perplexing that many of the questions that were being asked of the attorney giving the ethics presentation were how to avoid getting caught. Which kind of seemed
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
kind of an
but-
oxymoron for, having to take the ethics course. And numerous times the attorney said, well, this is what you need to do. This is the law. And then there were 2 or 3 more council people from unnamed cities that came up, and they too wanted to know how you could skirt the law. So that was quite a different way to go from taking an ethics course. But then the other one that was pretty interesting and something that I find of concern for cities in general, it was called Surviving the Silver Tsunami. And that was the aging population, especially for municipalities. A lot of city managers are going to be retiring, baby boomers. There's not enough college graduates to help fill the vacancies that will occur. And that's actually true in the field of education too, with administrators. A lot of administrators are retiring and they don't have the workforce, and the people that they do have don't have the experience that the silver-haired people, quote unquote. So in general, it was a nice conference. It was crazy to have rain, pouring rain in Indian Wells and weather in the 60 degrees on a couple of the evenings. But on whole, it was something worthwhile. On the other end, I'd like to just briefly remind you about the Aedes albopictus, Asian tiger mosquito. It is very prevalent in the San Gabriel Valley, more so now than in the previous 2 years since I've been telling the residents about it. There's 15 communities, including ours, that are experiencing the Asian infestation, up from 3 communities since the beginning of 2014. So 3 communities in 2014 and now 15 in 2015. The presence of invasive Aedes increases the risk of residents being exposed to tropical diseases such as chikungunya and yellow fever.
Chicken what?
Chikungunya. That's a mouthful.
That's a new one.
Some things that you can do and that the vector control is calling upon all residents to do their part by following these steps. Report any sightings of small black and white mosquitoes, or if you are being bitten by mosquitoes or feel during the day, call the San Gabriel Valley Vector Control. That number is 626-814-9466, and report that you've been bitten, especially if it's been by a black and white mosquito, if you've seen it.
What will they do?
Well, if that mosquito has been infected, then it's bitten you. Oh, what does the mosquito vector do?
What are they
Well,
gonna
they will come out to the area where you're bitten and test. So, and look for pools of water maybe and take samples. So that's the reason for reporting it. Dump and drain all water around your home. Eliminate the plant saucers and other unnecessary containers. They're asking that you thoroughly scrub your pet water dishes weekly because the eggs will stay even in the pet dishes with even a small amount of water. Do not transport or share plant stems rooted in water. Do not keep outdoor buckets full of water. Use insect repellent containing CDC-approved ingredients such as DEET, picaridin, or oil of lemon eucalyptus to avoid bites. So just as you do with conserving water and being cautious about that, please be cautious about standing water around your homes. We don't need to have an infestation in Temple City. And I think that's it.
It's getting tough to get through the day these days, isn't it?
It is.
Mosquitoes and you can kill two birds with one stone. Don't water, and then you won't have any mosquito problems. So there you go. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too went to the Contract City Conference. Just a couple of things that I think might be relevant to us. Councilmember Sternquist talked about a cybersecurity class. There's one thing that I think can apply to everyone here, that a little bit take away. They said that of all the attacks that hackers and all the other countries that are attacking us, surprisingly, most of the attacks tend to be very, very low tech. So something we all need to be watching out for. I mean, we all heard about phishing. They get asked for a site that, look very genuine, and they say, well, you need to reset your password, whatever. Don't fall for that. They said even a lot of the major security cases like Target and some of the other ones, they all start with simple phishing with some of the company staff people. So watch out for that. There's also a new variant of that called water holing. That is, they said, we have data that you need. Click over here, and they ask you to turn over your information to get that. So, and then just to Councilmember Sternquist's point, our utilities are getting attacked daily in the astounding number. I mean, I don't think I heard it wrong. The Southern California Edison representative said their company get attacked 3 million times a year. 3 million. It's amazing how much. But then again, we got people who are looking out for us, and well, they presented a Secret Service person. He wouldn't get into details, but he was pretty. He made it very clear. We do have a plan of attack to the other side. So he just left it at that. And then finally, a little shout out to our city manager, because one of the economic development class, and who was talking about his prior project at the Azalea Shopping Center. That was, we used that as an example. So we're happy to have Mr. Cook as our city manager. So that's it.
So we're looking for our next Azalea. Pressure's on. Okay, well, great. Good reports from contract cities. Thank you for all doing that. It was, I don't have really much to add to that. And so thank you for that. Just a couple of announcements. The County Sanitation District is hosting their annual facilities tour, which is June 3rd. It's an all-day event from 8 to 3:30. If you'd like any more information on that, you can either contact me or County Sanitation District. It's open to the public. Also, their annual boat trips will be beginning. I've mentioned them before, in running from June to August. There's several dates. I believe there's 7 different dates. If anybody's interested in doing that, let me know. In fact, that's how I first met Serge and Crystal Haddad. You remember we went on the boat trip together a long time ago. So now he's a commissioner. So see what happens if you go on the boat trip, become a commissioner. Attended the Historical Society of Temple City's meeting this past Sunday. Interesting guest speaker, Larry Stevens. Some of you may remember him from the Camellia Festival, World War II veteran, talked about his service as a B-17 tail gunner. Very interesting. And it's nice to hear from those gentlemen. Also along those lines, just to remind everybody, the museum has been kind of cleaning up, for want of a better term, and it's got a lot of different things there. And I would suggest, if you haven't already done so, to go see a tour. They're open, was it, Jerry, every other Sunday, or? Yes, every other Sunday of the month. So you can get their schedule, and I would highly recommend it. Good shout out to Miss Temple City. It was a great event. Never I will. Never ceases to amaze me though the talent and not only the talent but the grace and the personality and just really good kids that we have here in Temple City, and to participate in an event like that, and not only those who were chosen but of course those who were not. It's tough to get up there on stage and perform and do all these things, but they all did it in a very great way. And of course Anita, proud of her, and of course all the girls that were there. Anita Velasquez, one of our original youth committee members, and she even told me that she believed that her participation in that committee kind of brought her out of her shell, and those who attended was it well one of the two, but she very well spoken. But they're all very well deserving, and look forward to attending events with them throughout the year. Also, just a reminder, those who are watching or those who are in the audience, to remind the youth of our community that we're still taking applications for the youth committee, and we'll take those to the end of May for next year's committee. And I think that's about it. So we will now move on to item number 16, additional public comments on items not listed on the agenda. Do we have any further? Mary? Okay, come on up.
Mary Coqueco, Temple City residents. I want to talk about, you guys talked about the water thing. I myself did a lot of research on my own. I belong to East Pasadena Water Company, and I called them, asked them we had shortages. Do they get water from Metropolitan or Colorado? They said no, we don't. We're a private company. We have our own wells. We have plenty of water, but the state's putting their pressure, and on my bill, it's been like that for ages. They do a good job on the bottom part. There's 4 different rates. Your normal rate, and if you go over a little bit, it shows you how much you used the month before, the year before. They do a great job. You have that on there all the time. I don't know about the other water companies, what they do, but they do a great job on that. I did call Sunny Slope. I was surprised what they told me. They raised the rates for the people. I said, they have wells too. I said, why are you charging more? Well, just in case we have to go to Metropolitan Water. They're doing a racket as far as I'm concerned. So whoever has Sunny Slope, I don't know, I haven't checked all the other water companies. I did go to City Hall, and Adam gave me I was curious where the boundaries were. It's kind of like what, where Chavez had. You'd be surprised how many people don't even look at their bills when I ask them. They pay them. I said, how much did you use or something? They have no idea what I'm even talking about. So that's part of what you have. And then where I'm curious, okay, if I understand 25% for Temple City, okay. Where I'm getting confused, there's some families that have, say, they have kids and stuff, how much water they use. I don't understand how you can really prorate what people use. It depends on how big the houses are, especially now with these monsters that we're getting, with a lot of toilets and everything else, where they're using more water, so I don't understand how you can be fair to anybody. So when you have your meetings with the water companies, how are they going to handle that? And if it's a rental and the owner pays the water bill, and if they go over, who's going to get fined? The owner or the tenant? So there's another problem. And from what I understand in LA, I have friends that live in LA, they're not using as much water, but they say our bills went sky high, so why should we save when we're getting penalized? And I was going to make a copy for all of you. It was, maybe you read it, it was in the Star News about You need the trees and you need the grass because of the atmosphere and all this other stuff. I don't know how to explain it, but I think you know what I'm talking about. So all these brown lawns, a lot of people, it's a good excuse because they don't like the water anyway. It depends on what kind of grass you have. The kind of grass I have, it keeps the water inside, and even in the winter, it kind of goes dormant and it comes back. If you have trees, I have a lot of trees in my backyard, some in front. So my grass doesn't get as dry. So there's a lot of things about when you water. I never did water every day anyway. I don't have a sprinkler. So, and when it rained, I did catch water, and I'm using it for my plants in other places. It's not going to be sitting there.
Good.
So using common sense is the best thing. And so I don't know, when you talk to the water companies, and how are they going to really be fair to everybody? Temple City too, you need 24% savings. We're building all these extra houses, so how can you be with all the percentage? That's all I'm concerned about.
All right. Well, all good questions, all good points, and those are things that we are going to be developing over the next few months, and hopefully we'll have some answers. And you're right, common sense is a good place to start. So thank you, Mary. All right, do we have anyone else that's willing to come up and make a comment? If not, I'll close public comments. And with that, we are adjourned. Have a safe evening, everyone, and drive home safely.
Woo-hoo! That's got to be some kind of record.